So today's webinar is about e-invoicing, and we're going to try and make that relevant for all the bookkeepers and accountants that are on the line, and there are some small businesses joining us as well. We have Levine Naidoo with us from the Australian Tax Office. He's going to be giving us some good insights from the government's perspective there, but also myself, I'm Robin Sands, I'm CEO of Link4. We'll be giving some views too of e-invoicing with regards to the small businesses and what bookkeepers and accountants have been asking from us of late. So for us to jump straight into it, we'll get going on some of the basics, and what we're looking at through today's presentation is what is e-invoicing, who benefits, why are we even talking about it, what's the involvement of the government, and how does it affect small business. Hopefully that's the things that you're looking forward to benefiting from, because I guess really that's what we were putting out to what this event was about. So e-invoicing, what is it? Well, e-invoicing is short for electronic invoicing. Australians like to shorten things, so you will see that we are actually dropping the dash from the spelling of e-invoicing. Mostly Americans will put in e-invoicing, but we've already shortened it slightly further, just like we did with email. Both, of course, is acceptable, but electronic invoicing is about the management of invoices instantly in a structured electronic format. So e-invoicing is not sending an invoice via fax. It's not sending an invoice via email or PDF. It's a structured electronic format that allows invoices to be sent from one accounting system to another. The example there obviously is being able to send an invoice from Xero to someone using MYOB, or MYOB, or QuickBooks or something like that. So it happens instantly between accounting systems. As you can see with that image, there's a lot of different steps in the process for an invoice to be raised, and that's the one of the parts of the process that is being simplified to make it easy for every business and to save money, to save time, and to simplify. So what we're looking at is the simplification of invoices being sent from one organization to another. This is very important for suppliers. It's AR automation. It means that the invoices can be sent faster, go through the whole invoice cycle faster. So it reduces the costs on the side of the supplier, and it means that the invoice gets into the invoice cycle faster and can be paid faster. Reality is it can increase cash flow, which is a very important aspect for any small business to have faster cash flow. It also provides more data intelligence for a business, for a supplier, because they can see where their invoice is going through the cycle. On the other side, there's the buyer who receives a lot of invoices. Now, think of your business or one of your clients that receives a lot of invoices. What is their process? How do they go through that? And if take, for example, a restaurant that gets a lot of deliveries every day, somehow all of those deliveries and all of their invoices need to make it into the accounting system. And what we need to look at here is e-invoicing delivers that invoice direct into the accounting system, meaning there's enhanced AP productivity. It reduces the costs of having to process invoices. It reduces the errors that can come in, increases the quality of information that's being put across, because it goes from one computer system to another. There's no scanning in between. There is no manual data entry. It can also reduce the aspects of fraud. Now, you may have seen some emails of late with invoices. Click here to check out this invoice for you, and that opens up to scam artists or to some fraudulent activity. With the invoice being delivered straight into the accounting system, it negates that. But it also makes it easier to reconcile the accounts, and it makes it much simpler and easier for a small business to get their invoices direct into their accounting system. So e-invoicing benefits both sides, and that's what it needs to do. Unfortunately, a lot of small businesses don't know about e-invoicing, and that's because there hasn't been a real solution around for them until this time. So something like Link4 has been designed specifically for small business. And what that means is that there's nothing to install, there's no processes to change, and it's something that's affordable. It's quick and easy to join and be a part of modern e-invoicing, and small businesses can do that without having the technology backgrounds to do it. But because there hasn't been these e-invoicing solutions, you see a lot of people are sending invoices via email still. And it's understandable why that happens, but invoices are getting caught in spam filters. Invoices are being deleted, sometimes accidentally. Invoices get caught in a busy inbox, or they get emailed to someone who's on holidays, sick, maternity leave, etc. So there are a range of reasons why PDFing and sending an email invoice that way does not work because of some issues that come up. As you can see, there's a lot of invoices that get sent in Australia every year, 1 to 3 billion, and a third of these have issues involved in their data quality, and 20% go to the wrong person. A lot of these aspects of invoicing having errors and hitting these hurdles comes back to, well, is able to be addressed with e-invoicing to make that simpler. Now, the government obviously are one of the organisations that sends a lot of invoices, and you may yourself be a recipient of them. So what we're going to do is hand over to Levine, who is going to be able to talk to us about what the government is doing with regards invoicing, and some other aspects that how it can benefit small business.
So let's get started. So let's just go through why the government is involved. So the Australian Business Register, or ABR as it's more popularly known, is a branch within the Taxation Office, and its mission is to contribute to improving the well-being of Australian people through enhanced business productivity. And that breaks down into submission points, including reducing the administrative cost to businesses for complying with government regulation, influencing government policy through advocating the use of services and technologies to minimize the administrative burden on businesses, and lastly, to encourage the adoption of new practices by businesses to reduce their operating costs, promote productivity gains, and economic growth. So in keeping with this last point, the ABR sought the guidance in 2015 from the Department of Treasury, the Minister of Small Business at the time, and with the approval of the SBR board, engaged a consultant to explore the viability of a whole of economy approach for e-invoicing as a first step to helping businesses participate in the digital economy. So the ABR then engaged Belentis, a global consultant, as part of that consultancy. And during that engagement, the market had revealed several frustrations with the state of play at the time. So e-invoicing is not a new concept in the world, or in Australia for that matter. So the ABR acted on those recommendations to address those market frustrations. And some of the recommendations included use best-in-class, open source, open standard components in the shape and form of a holistic interoperability framework as used on massive European procurement programs. Set up a multi-stakeholder forum that would align public sector and private sector requirements, because essentially public sector is a business, a buyer. Agree on what that interoperability framework for Australia should look like, drive advocacy for e-invoicing across the economy, and then the government exercising its buying power as a large buyer to drive the broad adoption of e-invoicing across the economy. Over to slide 7, Robin. So the recommendation to set up a multi-stakeholder forum evolved into the creation of the Digital Business Council, consisting of representatives from peak industry bodies. The Council has a broader vision of increasing the level of participation of Australian businesses in the digital economy, and e-invoicing is just the first of many initiatives. So why specifically e-invoicing? That's because every business sends and receives invoices, and hence it would be a good place to start in order to drive productivity improvements and economic growth across the entire industry. There are other aspects to optimizing the full procure-to-pay supply chain. I'm happy to go through that at a later time. The government's role is to facilitate and enable, so it provides a secretariat function to support the council and its various working groups in the design of the framework and relevant governance procedures. And at the request of the council, the government also provides governance, that is managing change and ensuring integrity of the entire approach. Over to slide 8, Robin. So the approach itself consists of 4 imperatives. And the first imperative was to agree on a framework of open international standards, which is a set of policies, standards, and guidelines that provides certainty to the software industry, addresses some of the market frustrations. It basically standardizes connections between businesses. It bridges the various fragmentation in the market, as in trading islands, and provides certainty to those software providers in terms of a particular set of standards that gives them the broadest coverage in the industry. It is well established and an internationally accepted solution. It allows for businesses' digital locations or capabilities to change over time. And it is designed for scalability, as proven on other global deployments. The second imperative is to drive advocacy and sustain demand for e-invoicing by targeted communications to various market segments. This webinar is one such activity. The third imperative is working with the software industry and product and services vendors, such as Link4, for example, to ensure the broad availability of cost-effective and innovative solutions. This is beginning to appeal to businesses of all sizes, and government agencies are now looking to take costs out of their core back office systems, such as accounts payable, so that it could focus more on service delivery. And this is expected to create a ripple effect through the economy, as government is a large buyer. If you look at all 3 levels of government, there's something to the tune of 130,000 suppliers across the country. And once a government supplier starts using it to send a government agency an invoice and receive purchase orders, for example, it will see the benefits and encourage others to trade this way, and hence this ripple effect will spread through the industry. Imperative 4 is about actively monitoring the take-up and adoption, and to address any barriers that come up that would limit adoption by the economy. Over to slide 9. So what does this all mean for small businesses? And just why do we need an open approach to e-invoicing? So the average small business spends about half a day a week on paperwork. An open approach is needed so that maximum service and product providers can enter the market, so that the SME community in turn can have access to cost-effective and innovative solutions that have all the features of enterprise software, but at a price point that is clearly aimed at that SME market. Because the vendors, many vendors today are seeing the SME market as a high volume, low price annuity income or revenue stream. To promote growth, businesses must be able to trade across multiple trading communities, expand their trading partner network in a competitive trading environment. And the Council's framework does actually create that ecosystem or that digital infrastructure environment that enables that promotion of growth to occur. So basing this on open standards also makes it internationally relevant so that Australia becomes an attractive trading partner to other economies. And the reason why bookkeepers and accountants are key to this is that bookkeepers are giving more advice on cloud-based accounting and technology systems to their customers. So their role has evolved, and it's been uplifted from just the data entry transactional role. And we see a clear role for them in raising the maturity of the business community and ultimately playing a vital role in economic growth. So we see the business advisors doing higher value work than the current transactional work. And that's it from me, Robin. Over back to you.
All right, thank you, Levine. That's good. Okay, here we go. Appreciate you sharing those thoughts. Now, question and answers. Very happy to have some questions come through. And I did forget to mention, for those of you who don't know Levine, he is the architect of the e-invoicing structure for Australia, the e-invoicing framework. He's team member #1, so he definitely knows what he's talking about here. So if you have questions, it would be good. So one that has come through, Levine, is will the government mandate this using e-invoicing?
So there's two aspects to mandating something like this. So the first aspect obviously is from what we've seen and the actual requests that came from the market over the last 18 months is that the business case for businesses adopting this really stacks up. We haven't seen or experienced any interaction with any business or with any of the software and services industry or procurement specialists that say, well, I need to see the business case for this. So the business case definitely stacks up. It's very attractive to the market, especially now since software and services providers have competitively priced solutions, especially for the small business community. Cost and implementation overheads are no longer a barrier for adoption. So in this case, it's just a case of raising awareness with the market that they are cost-effective solutions. I think there's even one free option. That they are cost-effective solutions, and businesses, if they're wanting to survive in today's digital economy, they have to embrace digital technologies for not just productivity gains and growth, but just to sustain their businesses. The second part of mandating is that government agencies have seen the benefits of e-invoicing. There's a massive set of shared services initiatives within the federal government area and within several state governments to optimize their procurement practices. And as part of optimizing their procurement practices, being able to receive electronic invoices and reduce the cycle time. I'm not sure if everybody has seen a very, very profound and impactful report based on an inquiry run by the Australian Small and Family Business Ombudsman. And in that report, there was a set of very, very strong recommendations to government to improve its procurement practices due to late payments. Australia is the 19th worst country in the world in terms of paying invoices on time. And some of those recommendations, I would suggest people watch this space because some of those recommendations are really, really profound. One of them includes that government should reduce its payment cycle time to 15 days, and I can only imagine what impact that will have on the industry. And the second one that's just as important, if not more important, is that government only deal with suppliers who can equal or better that particular KPI. There's a raft of other recommendations. So I would encourage people to review that report. Robin, through yourself, we'd be happy to send links to that report as well.
Okay, yes, yeah, we're happy to supply that. Feel free for anyone to request any information that Levine is speaking about. I do have another question here, Levine, regarding OCR. So does e-invoicing supersede OCR or PDF scanning?
Yes, it does. But you will no doubt speak to many people in the market who have different perspectives and different opinions. There's a lot of anecdotal stats and real stats around the benefits of OCR and what it does and so on. I think the more important issue for people to consider is this, that OCR, whether it's beneficial or whether it's not so good, it focuses on just one part of the accounts payable lifecycle, and that's just converting paper-based invoices to data that could be entered into business management systems. Whereas e-invoicing looks at the entire end-to-end process of receiving, confirming the receipt, processing an invoice, doing the three-way matching in terms of comparing the invoice with the purchase order, if there is one, and the goods receivable note, if there is one, looking at procurement compliance rules within an organization, and then only approving that procurement. It totally addresses some of the major fraud activities that's been happening. I'm sure people would have seen about 2 weeks ago, Google and Facebook were scammed $100 million on emailed invoices. Citibank was scammed something like 400 million. The list goes on, actually. If you just Google invoice scam, fraud, or fake invoices, you'll come up with an alarming number. So e-invoicing actually goes a long way to addressing those issues around fraud. And if organizations want to look at improving their interactions with their trading partners, then they will look at the end-to-end supply chain, which includes exchanging, purchase orders, advance shipping notices, invoices, payments, and remittances, which incidentally is something the council is embarking on as the next immediate step. We will digitize payments. We will digitize remittances, which will be collaboratively done with the new payments platform, which is sponsored by the Reserve Bank. That means that businesses will be able to pay invoices in almost real time, something like 12 seconds, rather than currently the 2-day delay. Those three things will fundamentally transform how invoices get processed and paid in the country. So the 15-day cycle time is becoming very much of a reality.
Very good. Exciting times. If you've got any more questions, please click on the chat box and let us know. I do have another one here, Levine. When will this be available for businesses to use?
Sure. So what's been happening since the provisional accreditation was offered to vendors such as yourself, since November last year, we've got 24 service providers provisionally accredited. We're going through the final process in testing the actual final accreditation process. You can imagine that in order to protect the integrity of the system, we have to be absolutely sure that service providers can be accredited to some very, very strict SLAs and adherence to the suite of standards. So we can't take that very lightly. There is a thing called a digital capability locator, which is the first place to go to discover if a business has digital capabilities and where to send their invoices. The ATO, on behalf of the council, went out to tender to have that built. The pilot beta version of that should be up and running sometime in the middle of this year, and then we should be good to go. We've already had something like 8 POCs either conducted or in the process of being conducted. We can send you links to press releases related to that. One of that is CBA and Telstra. The other is a government organization. And these POCs are just to prove to everybody that this is a very viable approach. It's reliable, and it's a better way to exchanging invoices than PDF, OCR, or paper.
Yeah, very good. And just to reinforce the point that with Link4, small businesses can start doing e-invoicing now, and we'll connect everyone that's on Link4 will connect to the Australian framework when that goes live around the middle of the year. Time's almost up. One final question here. Can purchase orders be sent this way?
Yes, indeed, Robin. So just to explain a little, the reason we started with the invoice is, ultimately the best place to have started was with payments, because no matter what part of the industry you are, payments, the structure of payments do not differ. It's the easiest thing to implement from a structure perspective. But because the new payments platform program is going live around October this year, it made sense for us to move earlier in the procure-to-pay life cycle. So we started at invoices. But as you go higher in the life cycle in terms of the fulfillment stages, with regards to shipping notices, delivery notes, and then into the purchasing stage of the life cycle, it becomes a little more complex to implement those things. So the view has been within the council that it is better to raise the maturity on the market with something much more simpler to introduce, such as the invoice. But having said that, the team will be working immediately on the rest of the procurement documents, and purchase orders are certainly in that mix. And the other important thing about purchase orders is that it's one of the best business tools to circumvent fraud, because it actually acts as an authorization for people to send you an invoice. So that's one of the best practices that certainly the council and the various peak industry bodies involved will be promoting through the industry. So purchase orders, certainly I can confirm, are a very important part of the initiative.
Excellent. Well, exciting times. It's great to see e-invoicing so close for small businesses to use, but also what's coming after that. Thank you so much for giving us those insights, Levine. Really appreciate it.
And thank everybody for their attention.
Yeah. And if anyone else has any questions, feel free to email them through to us. We will answer them or pass them on to Levine to answer, and we can continue to share information there. So thank you all for your support, and yeah, we'll be in touch with more information soon. Thanks, Levine.
Thank you.